How about that performance? Are you happy now? What you gotta say now? I've been hearing y'all talk about a bunch of other people. Caitlin Clark said, I bailed the team out last game. Damn it, I'll bail them out again. Talk about a performance. We gotta get into it, man.
We have got to get into this GOAT show that was put
32 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, 13 for 13 from the free throw line. And somehow, despite all of that, this game almost slipped away. What we just watched was Caitlin Clark putting the entire Indiana Fever on her back for the second consecutive game, dragging them to an overtime victory against one of the worst teams in the league. But here's what makes this performance so revealing. It wasn't just about the numbers. It was about what those numbers exposed regarding everything that's broken with this Fever team right now.
Non-stop from Caitlin Clark. It was nothing nobody could do to stop Caitlin Clark. Nobody on the Chicago Sky could guard Caitlin Clark. We're talking about a pure masterclass. This is what a GOAT looks like. This is what legendary looks like. This is what the best player in the world looks like. We got a bonehead coach, still don't know what she doing. Kelsey Mitchell making idiotic play after idiotic play down the stretch. The fact that this thing even went to overtime is diabolical.
Let's establish the context here, because this matters. The Chicago Sky came into this game as arguably the least talented roster in the WNBA. We're talking about a team that's been struggling all season, a team in complete rebuild mode. The Indiana Fever held a 19-point lead, 19 points, against a Sky team that has no business competing with a playoff-caliber squad. And yet somehow, someway, this game went to overtime. That's not a close competitive battle between two evenly matched teams. That's a complete systematic failure. And when you dig into how it happened, you find two names that keep appearing: Stephanie White and Kelsey Mitchell.
How about this, man? Caitlin Clark in 40 minutes, 32 points, 10 assists, 7 rebounds, 8 of 18 from the floor, just 1 of 6 from 3. The girl got to the line 13 times and made them all. The girl got to the line 13 times and made them all. A.B. Aaliyah Boston, girl, you did your thing too. You missed a lot of layups and messed up some assists for Caitlin Clark down the stretch. But damn it, you played a good game. 13 of 26. Aaliyah Boston had 34 points and 12 rebounds, y'all. Check this out. Check this out.
Now watch this celebration carefully, because buried in this excitement is a historic achievement that's getting lost in the chaos of how poorly this game was managed. Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston just became the first teammates in WNBA history to both record 30-point double-doubles in the same game. Think about that for a second. In the entire history of the league, spanning 28 seasons, this has never happened before. Boston finished with 34 points and 12 rebounds on an efficient 50% shooting from the floor. Clark added 32 and 10 assists to go with 7 boards. This is the most dominant duo in the league when they're allowed to play their natural game. When that pick-and-roll action between Clark and Boston gets rolling, it's virtually unstoppable. Every team in the league knows it's coming, and they still can't stop it. But here's the problem. Here's what's driving fans absolutely insane. Head coach Stephanie White keeps abandoning this two-man game at critical moments. She keeps running sets that take the ball out of Clark's hands. She keeps making substitutions that kill momentum. And the result is what we saw today, a 19-point lead evaporating against an inferior opponent.
I gotta address some things. The Chicago Sky, I gotta show some love to Sydney Taylor. Sydney Taylor, undrafted rookie off the bench. This girl came off the bench and had 30. This girl came off the bench and had 30. She had 16 points in 3 minutes in the third quarter. Stephanie White's an idiot, y'all. The lady's an idiot. We got Lexi Hall, our best defender, sitting on the bench while Sydney Taylor's in the game.
Before we get deeper into the coaching failures, we need to acknowledge something unexpected that happened in this game. Sydney Taylor, an undrafted rookie coming off the Chicago bench, absolutely exploded in the third quarter. She dropped 16 points in just 3 minutes. 16 points in 3 minutes. That's not a typo. This girl was unconscious, hitting everything she threw up, single-handedly bringing the Sky back into a game they had no business being competitive in. And here's where the coaching incompetence becomes glaringly obvious. The Fever have Lexi Hall on their roster, one of their best perimeter defenders, someone who's proven she can shut down hot shooters. Hull was sitting on the bench while Taylor was cooking. Instead, Stephanie White had Raven Johnson out there, trying to guard Taylor. Now, nothing against Raven Johnson. She's a rookie who played at South Carolina and brings energy. But here's a news flash for everyone who thinks a South Carolina pedigree automatically means elite defense in the WNBA. It doesn't work that way. Johnson was getting torched, Absolutely torched. Taylor was scoring at will. It took far too long for White to make the adjustment and get Hull into the game. When Hull finally checked in, she immediately shut down Taylor's hot streak. The water got turned off, but the damage was already done. A 19-point lead had been cut down to single digits because of slow reactive coaching instead of proactive game management.
The Indiana Fever had no business going into overtime with this team. Caitlin Clark saved Stephanie White and Kelsey Mitchell's ass. Kelsey Mitchell, you get a steal. We get the ball. We're up 5 with 1 minute left. Yo ass go run in and throw up a layup and miss it. Bring the ball out, run the clock. You're up 5 with a minute left. Why are you trying to force it? Bro, you can't be that thirsty to try to score 20 points every time. You can't be acting that thirsty to try to score 20 points every single time. It's ridiculous, Kelsey. I'm disgusted with the stuff you did down.
Now we get to the part that should have Fever fans absolutely livid. We're going to break down the final minute of regulation, because what happened in those 60 seconds was basketball malpractice at the highest level. The Fever are up 5 points with 1 minute remaining. 1 minute? You've got a 5-point cushion against a team that's been struggling all game. All you have to do is manage the clock, get good shots, and close it out. Kelsey Mitchell gets a steal. Great defensive play. The Fever now have possession with a chance to extend the lead, or at minimum, run clock and maintain the 5-point advantage. This is where basketball IQ matters. This is where understanding game situations separates good players from great ones. And this is where Kelsey Mitchell made one of the most boneheaded plays you'll see all season. Instead of bringing the ball out, instead of running the clock, instead of setting up the offense and taking a high percentage shot late in the shot clock, Mitchell just barrels toward the basket. She forces up a contested layup and misses. Chicago gets the rebound and comes right back down the floor. A 5-point lead with under a minute left just became a one-possession game because of pure selfishness and terrible decision-making.
Up 3, she's gonna make 2 free throws. The game is over. The game is over. You get it to Kelsey Mitchell. It goes off her leg out of bounds. Skylar Diggins makes a 3 to send it into overtime. This Indiana Fever team, Stephanie White is a complete moron. She has no idea what she's doing. Kelsey Mitchell has some of the lowest, probably the lowest basketball IQ I've ever seen from a player. No sense of time awareness, nothing. All this girl want to do is run around and jack up shots. 2 bonehead plays from Kelsey Mitchell down the street.
But wait, it gets worse. Because apparently one catastrophic mistake wasn't enough for the final minute. The Fever still have the lead. They're up 3 points. Caitlin Clark has been perfect from the free throw line all game long. 13 for 13. Automatic. Money. If you're designing an end-of-game situation, you want the ball in her hands, you want her getting fouled, you want her going to the line to ice the game. The Fever run an inbound play, and somehow, inexplicably, the ball gets thrown to Kelsey Mitchell. Not to Clark, who hasn't missed a free throw all night. To Mitchell. The pass hits Mitchell's leg and goes out of bounds. Turnover. Chicago ball. Skylar Diggins Smith comes down and drains a 3-pointer to send the game to overtime. Let's be crystal clear about what just happened here. The Indiana Fever had multiple opportunities to close out a game against an inferior opponent. They had a 19-point lead earlier. They had a 5-point lead with 1 minute left. They had a 3-point lead with seconds remaining and the ball in their hands. And they blew it. Not because Chicago made some incredible comeback with unstoppable plays, but because of unforced errors, terrible decision-making, and coaching that failed to put players in position to succeed.
You should not be going to overtime blowing a 19-point lead to the damn Chicago Sky. They are the gum on the bottom of the shoe of the league. This team sucks. This team sucks. Y'all shouldn't be going into overtime with them. Stephanie White, you better be getting to this podium and saying thank you, because 2 games in a row, Caitlin Clark done saved your sorry ass. Let's be real here. Let's be real here. Caitlin Clark has got you off the hook 2 games in a row. You better be appreciative. You better have some better energy in that post-game locker room. Kelsey Mitchell, she saved your ass again today too. She saved you today too.
Here's what makes this situation so frustrating for anyone who understands basketball. The talent gap between these 2 teams is significant. The Indiana Fever, when healthy and playing to their potential, should beat the Chicago Sky by double digits every single time they meet. This shouldn't be close. This definitely shouldn't go to overtime. Look at the Sky's roster. Camila Cardozo, their rookie center, has shown flashes but remains inconsistent and foul-prone. She's not a dominant force yet. The rest of their rotation is filled with role players and young developing talent. They're building for the future, not competing for championships now. There's no shame in that. It's part of the process. But it means that when you're the Fever, with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston both having historic nights, you should be able to put this team away. The fact that it went to overtime isn't a testament to Chicago's resilience. It's an indictment of Indiana's execution and coaching. When you blow a 19-point lead to one of the league's weakest teams, you don't get credit for eventually winning in overtime. You get criticized for nearly losing a game you should have controlled from start to finish.
Man, let's get into the GOAT show. Caitlin Clark, man, we got to take a look at some of these highlights. She was cooking that ass. Let's take a look, man. Caitlin Clark put on today, coming off the ball screen, getting it to Aaliyah ball, back to CC for a bomb. Bang! Baghdad! Caitlin Clark kicking it to Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah knocking down a three. Aaliyah knocked down a few threes today, man. Aaliyah had a strong game. 50% from the floor, 34 points. Balled out. Look at that. Mid post, turn around, pull up, midi.
Let's talk about what Caitlin Clark actually did in this game, because the performance itself deserves recognition even if the overall team execution was problematic. That 32-point, 10-assist, 7-rebound stat line doesn't tell the complete story. The efficiency matters. She shot 8 of 18 from the floor, which is a solid 44%. She was only 1 of 6 from three-point range, which is below her standards. But here's the key: she adjusted. When the three-point shot wasn't falling, Clark attacked the basket. She got to the free throw line 13 times and converted all 13 attempts. That's not luck. That's not a hot shooting night from distance. That's a player recognizing what's working, what's not working, and making the necessary adjustments to still impact the game. It's a sign of maturity and basketball intelligence. Watch how she operates in the pick and roll with Boston. The chemistry between these two is remarkable for a duo that's still relatively early in their partnership. Clark reads defenses at an elite level. She knows when to shoot, when to pass, when to reject the screen, when to use it. And Boston has developed an instinct for where Clark wants her to be. That's why they made history tonight. That's why they're the first teammates ever to both drop 30-point double-doubles.
Is the best player in the WNBA. Best player in the W. You too little. You too little, JC Sheldon. Big body CC. Big body CC, man. Bust JC Sheldon ass today. Natasha Cloud, you did a little bit too much talking in the offseason. You're not that good to me. I'm gonna be real. You're not very good. Caitlin Clark tore you up too. Look at this pass from Caitlin Clark. Dot. That looked like a Patrick Mahomes pass. That looked like a Patty Mahomes dime. Caitlin Clark turning the corner. Caitlin Clark is unstoppable, bro.
The passing, though. The passing is what separates Clark from almost every other guard in the league. Those 10 assists could have easily been 15 if teammates had converted some of the layups they missed. She's threading passes through tight windows, hitting cutters in stride, finding shooters in rhythm. The court vision is exceptional. There's one pass in particular, a cross-court laser to the corner that looked like something Patrick Mahomes would throw on a football field. The velocity, the accuracy, the timing, all perfect. That's not a pass that most players even see, let alone attempt, let alone complete. And Clark makes it look routine. This is what elite playmaking looks like. This is why she's already changing the conversation about what's possible at the guard position in the WNBA. The combination of scoring ability and passing vision at this level is rare. You can count on one hand the number of players in league history who could do both at this caliber.
Side to Aaliyah Boston, finish. I'm telling you, bro. Caitlin Clark should have had about 15 assists if people could make layups. Indiana Fever fouled more than anybody and missed more layups than anybody I've seen. Caitlin Clark was unstoppable. She was unstoppable, man. It was nothing they could do with her. Look at this. Get this assist to Aaliyah Boston. Midi. They back playing that pick and roll. Back playing that two-man game, and it's unstoppable. When Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston play that two-man game, it's the most unstoppable action in the league. And the fact that Stephanie White has chosen to go away from it, she just needs to be fired, man. Caitlin Clark put on an absolute GOAT show, the best player in the whole world, and she bailed out Kelsey Mitchell and Stephanie White once again.
Now we need to address the elephant in the room. This is the second consecutive game where Caitlin Clark has had to bail out her teammates and coaching staff. 2 games in a row where she's put up monster numbers to cover up deficiencies elsewhere. 2 games in a row where the Fever have made things harder than they needed to be, and Clark has saved them from the consequences of their mistakes. That's not sustainable. You can't rely on your rookie superstar to play perfect basketball every single night just to overcome coaching errors and veteran mistakes. Eventually, she's going to have an off night. Eventually, the shots won't fall, or she'll get in foul trouble, or the defense will find a scheme that slows her down. And when that happens, if the rest of the team hasn't figured out how to execute properly, if the coaching hasn't improved, the Fever are going to lose games they should win. Stephanie White needs to take a hard look at her rotations, her play calling, and her end-of-game management. The talent on this roster is good enough to compete for a playoff spot. But talent alone doesn't win championships. You need organization. You need discipline. You need a coach who puts players in position to succeed and makes adjustments when things aren't working. Right now, the Fever have a coach who's getting bailed out by generational talent. That's not a recipe for long-term success. So here's what this game really revealed. It showed us that Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston can be a historic duo, capable of performances we've never seen before in WNBA history. 30-point double-doubles from both of them in the same game is remarkable, and it demonstrates the ceiling of what this partnership can become. When those two are in rhythm, when the pick and roll is humming, when Clark is finding Boston for easy buckets and Boston is setting screens that free up Clark for her offense, it's beautiful basketball. It's the kind of two-man game that should be the foundation of everything the Fever do offensively. But the game also exposed critical flaws that can't be ignored. The coaching decisions remain questionable at best, catastrophic at worst. Leaving your best defender on the bench, while an undrafted rookie goes nuclear for 3 minutes, isn't a minor oversight. That's a fundamental failure to recognize what's happening in real time and make the necessary adjustment. Sydney Taylor's 16 points in 3 minutes should never have happened. Lexi Hull should have been on the floor the moment Taylor hit her second or third consecutive shot. Instead, Stephanie White waited, and the lead evaporated. The late-game execution is even more concerning, because these aren't complex situations. Up 5 with a minute left, you run the clock and get a good shot. That's basketball 101. You don't let Kelsey Mitchell go rogue and force a terrible layup attempt that gives the other team life. And when you're up 3 with seconds remaining, you absolutely do not throw an inbound pass to anyone other than your best free throw shooter. Caitlin Clark was 13 for 13. She was automatic. There's no universe in which the ball should be going to Kelsey Mitchell in that situation. None. These aren't judgment calls where reasonable people can disagree. These are fundamental errors that high school coaches would recognize and correct. The fact that they're happening at the professional level, with playoff implications on the line, is unacceptable. Let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell specifically, because this needs to be said. Mitchell is a talented scorer. She can get hot and put up points in bunches. But basketball IQ matters, especially in crucial moments. That forced layup with a minute left, that turnover on the inbound play, these aren't fluky mistakes. They're the result of poor decision-making and a lack of situational awareness. You have to know the score, the time. You have to understand when to be aggressive and when to be smart. Mitchell's decision-making in the final minute of regulation was indefensible. And here's the thing that should worry Fever fans. This isn't an isolated incident. This is a pattern. Mitchell has a tendency to play hero ball at times when the team needs steady, intelligent basketball. She's hunting for her own offense when she should be facilitating. She's forcing shots when she should be moving the ball. And in critical moments, those tendencies get magnified. The contrast with Caitlin Clark couldn't be more stark. Clark is absolutely capable of taking over games. We saw that tonight with 32 points. But watch how she does it. She's taking what the defense gives her. When the three isn't falling, she attacks the rim and gets to the line. When the defense collapses on her drives, she finds open teammates. She's not forcing anything. She's playing within the flow of the game, while still being aggressive and assertive. That's the difference between a player who understands how to dominate and a player who's just trying to get theirs. The Chicago Sky deserves some credit for fighting back. Down 19, they could have packed it in and accepted the blowout loss. Instead, they kept competing. Sydney Taylor's eruption gave them life. Skylar Diggins-Smith hit the clutch 3 to force overtime. They showed resilience. But let's be clear, their resilience was only relevant because the Fever gave them multiple opportunities to get back in the game. Chicago didn't steal this game. Indiana nearly gave it away. Looking at the bigger picture, this game is a microcosm of the Fever's season so far. They have elite talent at the top of the roster. Caitlin Clark is playing at an all-star level as a rookie, which is almost unheard of. Aaliyah Boston is building on her Rookie of the Year campaign from last season and showing growth in her game. When these two are both rolling, the Fever can beat anybody in the league. But the supporting cast is inconsistent. The coaching is questionable. The execution in crucial moments is unreliable. And that's the formula for a team that's going to be frustrating to watch all season. They'll have games where everything clicks, and they look like a legitimate contender. And they'll have games like this, where they nearly lose to inferior opponents because of self-inflicted wounds. The question for the rest of the season is whether Stephanie White can figure this out.